It's an unbelievable story about how 4 bears were caged for 2 decades. Watch what happens when they're released. Bears are very intelligent animals, but they're often treated worse than they deserve. Know that there are 4 bears trapped in their cages for the last 20 years now. What will happen to them next? An untold story of 4 bears who were caged for 20 years. What would happen when they were freed? We have a very similar story to share with you today about 5 moon bears. Before we hear about the 4 bears, 5 moon bears. Bears are wonderful animals, aren't they? However, sometimes they aren't treated as such majestic creatures. Bile bears, sometimes called battery bears, are bears that are kept in captivity to harvest that bile, a digestive fluid produced by liver and stored in the gallbladder, which is used by some traditional Asian medicine practitioners. It is estimated that 12,000 bears are farmed for bile in China, South Korea, Laos, Vietnam, and Myanmar. Demand for the bile has been found in those nations and in some others, such as Malaysia and Japan. Bile farms have been outlawed in Vietnam since 1992. However, bears are still captured and caged in illicit farms, where their bile is extracted using invasive and painful techniques. A loophole in the law allows farmers to keep the bears listed as pet. Driven by the belief that it has medicinal qualities, bear biofouling involves food catheters jabbed repeatedly into the caged animal's abdomen and gallbladder to drain at the fluid in an excruciatingly painful process that takes place twice a day. In recent years, hundreds have died due to maltreatment. The animals are routinely drugged and restrained for bowl harvesters to collect liquid from the gallbladders with unsterilized needle. The procedure of extracting biles from the animals varies from country to country and is often unregulated. In Vietnam, the most common technique involves knocking the bear out with a powerful tranquilizer each month before inserting a large syringe or catheter deep into the bear's gallbladder to extract the fluid. In South Korea, where it is legal to breed bears and slaughter them at 10 years of age for the sole purpose of extracting bile, the mammals are bred and caged for their entire lives before being killed. The bile is then extracted or the gallbladder harvest. In China, where it is also legal to own a captive bear and extract its bile. The most common technique involves farmers luring the animals into minute cages where they can barely move before piercing through the bear's abdominal wall into the gallbladder to create a permanent hole. The animal suffers immensely from extreme pain and the wounds could cause severe infection. 5 moon bears named LeBron, Kim, May, Star, and Mekong were detained in rusty cages in the small southern town of Mai Do in Vietnam. They were forced to endure constant and agonizing procedures to have the bile extracted from the gallbladders for 21 years. The digestive juice contained a prized ingredient in traditional Chinese medicine and industry, which is worth 1.5 billion pounds. The bile is turned into powders, ointments, and capsules, and it has been suggested that the product can ease pain from liver disease and damage. In China, men also use the bear bile as an aphrodisiac or to help cure hangovers. Aside from medicinal purposes, the fluid is also used for entertainment purposes and is drunk to demonstrate affluence. In recent years, it has also been added to various lifestyle and beauty products, such as energy drinks, toothpaste, and shampoo. Hong Kong-based nonprofit Animals Asia carried out the rescue in August 2018. They freed the bears from concrete cells with rusted bars, where they had been kept for over 2 decades. Animals Asia have been fighting bear farming in Asia for over 21 years. They have rescued over 500 bears in China and Vietnam since they started the organization. Rescuers either use honey or calmly cooks the animals out of their pens into a transport cage or dart them and stretch them to their removal truck if they're unwilling to move. Many, unfortunately, are starved, dehydrated, wounded, and psychologically scared when they are rescued. Video footage released by Animals Asia shows one of the captive moon bears roaming in one of the cages moments before it was freed. Other pictures of the 6-hour rescue operation saw the bears receiving medical examinations before they moved onto a large transport truck. Doctors and vets both medically assessed the bears and took blood, hair, feces, and urine samples from the bears, which were found suffering from tooth decay and joint pain. All of this was down to a poor diet and from biting their cage bars in frustration. The bears were found to have not been given proper nutrition and medical attention over the past 2 decades. The bears were then taken on a 1,000-mile journey from Tien Giant Province to a rescue center in Tam Dao National Park. There were about 1,200 bears in captivity in Vietnam in 2017. down from more than 4,000 in 2005 cage in over 400 bear farms across the country. There are still some bearable farm owners who have not agreed to release their bears since they consider them commercial products. However, there have been positive signs in recent years, with many others volunteering to hand over their bears to the activists facilitating the rescue campaign. However, public awareness of the animal protection and welfare have been gradually rising across Asia, pressuring authorities to close bear farms and implement laws. The trading of bile from live bears has been declining in recent years. Vietnam banned commercial bear bile extraction in 2005, but more than a decade later, it remains a problem. Animals Asia has an exclusive memorandum of understanding with the Vietnamese government to shut down all bile farms and free the remaining 400 bears in captivity by 2022. The 5 bears are free from their cages. They will never suffer behind bars again. It's a new life for these innocent bears who now finally enjoy some freedoms they were denied so long ago. Don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to our channel to hear more amazing stories from around the world. For bears, whether you have friends or family, one of the best things you can do on a bright and sunny day is to visit a zoo and observe the incredible array of wildlife. There are so many fascinating and sometimes bizarre species, which really makes us appreciate life here on our planet. When the weather's warm and you're feeling like doing something fun to take advantage of the day, one of the most entertaining options is spending a day strolling around the zoo. However, not all zoos are created equal and are a joyful experience. Stay tuned to find out more about untold story of 4 bears who are caged for 20 years. Watch what happened when they're freed. Zoos offer us the chance to see our favorite animals up close and as enjoyable as they are. As much as we love animals and enjoy watching their wonderful and adorable antics, we need to remember that they're not here for our entertainment. Sadly, there are people who don't realize this, and not all zoos are run the way they should be. One roadside zoo in Pennsylvania, USA presented itself as a place of fun and entertainment for people of all ages to see animals up close in person. However, the reality was much more like a prison for the animals. Bruno, Fifi, Pocahontas, and Marcia were the names of the 4 bears that were kept behind rusty old cages. The uncomfortable living condition was made worse without shade, shelter, or water for swimming and cooling off. The 4 bears that were kept behind rusty old cages. The uncomfortable living condition was made worse without shade, shelter, or water for swimming and cooling off. The 4 bears had only been given a rickety doghouse to protect them at night. They were kept from hibernating according to their natural cycle. When the bears were in the cages, they were being forced to take part in cruel, inhumane circus acts. Their trainers would place a mask around their face and a rope around their necks, and then they would bring them out and force them to perform a routine in front of the public. The bears were discovered by Peter as they got word that the owner was planning on selling the bears. Bruno, Fifi, Pocahontas, and Marcia had all developed serious health problems and spent their days pacing their cages and shaking, a sign of severe mental. Peter secured a bear expert to assess their health and determine whether they could travel. The expert gave the okay, but because of their advanced ages and for safety's sake, they had 2 veterinarians accompany them on their journey to their new home at Colorado's Wild Animal Sanctuary. After a 24-hour cross-country journey, they were finally let out of their cages and allowed to roam free for the first time in their lives. It was a moment that few could ever forget, the precious looks on their face. They finally got their first taste of freedom. Upon arriving at the sanctuary, Bruno, Pocahontas, and Marcia were understandably cautious when the cage doors opened, but bold Fifi headed straight for a dip in the tub. Bruno and Marcia soon followed. This was likely the first chance that these bears had taken a dip in decades. The 4 bears needed a bit of time to adjust to the new and improved circumstances and spent about a week in temporary enclosures that were around 3 times the size of their formal living spaces before they were given access to their wonderful permanent habitats. Their new life is a far cry from the years when they were forced to perform tricks. Marcia was once used in ads of Burger King and Poland spring water, and from the conditions of the zoo, which repeatedly violated the federal animal welfare. Now Bruno, Fifi, Pocahontas, and Marcia have acres of prairie grasses to roam, swimming holes, and the veterinary care that they desperately need. Rather than being confined individually to all tiny cages in which they could barely take a few steps in any direction, the bears now all live in social groups, allowed to choose how they spend their time. Instead of small rotting wooden doghouses, they have their own underground dance. It's heartbreaking that so many people still to this day think it's okay to keep animals in such dreadful living conditions. Thankfully, these two stories all had a happy ending. How do you feel about zoos and animals being trapped in cages? Tell us in the comments below. We love hearing what you have to say. Thanks for watching. See you next time.